Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show here on STV2. The main talking points on tonight's programme: Celtic fined by UEFA, McInnes confident Aberdeen can progress in Europe, and Cathro rejects the claim he was disrespectful. Just a few of the talking points on the programme. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin. Friday night, our bookroom guest is Hugh MacDonald of the Daily Mail. Delighted to see Hugh back with us. A lot of toing and froing, Ruffy. Sometimes you think you're going to lose players. There's Bosmans, there's swap deals, and then there's just basically trying to get somebody out the door. But he's back with us.
Yeah, and some people are easy to negotiate with than others.
That's a very good point. Probably the most pertinent point. Okay.
No, I was going to say you can't have any more than two good players anyway.
Well, absolutely. The last thing
you
you
need
need
another
is
person. It'd be difficult.
dressing room
Keep them
unrest
happy,
is the last thing we need, and we'll hear about that in this programme as Ruffy preempts exactly what's coming up again. Okay, let's have a look at the back page headlines on most of the sports pages. There's the Daily Record with, of course, Graham Shinnie with that wonder strike for Aberdeen to give them a 2-1 win over Apollon Limassol. And also there's a little reference there from Ian Cathro on being disrespectful towards Jim McInally, the Peterhead boss. Here's the Sun. Again, it's Aberdeen with that win over Limassol. Lee Griffiths, outside chance of maybe making the game in Trondheim against Rosenborg. And the Scots Euro agony is, of course, the girls just missing out by a single goal in the European Championships after defeating Spain as well. Here's the Daily Mail. And you can see by the headline they're feeling the love, and I think quite an emotional night for Anna Signol as well. And there's also the Courier, and this is talking about the aforementioned Aberdeen and Scotland games, and of course coming up there is indeed the small matter of a Dundee derby, something that a lot of people are looking forward to in the city. You're divided into being the Tangerine or the Dark Blues. So we'll talk about that game as well. Let's cut to the chase on the first thing, breaking news about Celtic being fined by UEFA, Hugh. And again, this is an ongoing situation. It seems to be recurring season after season, this time for the illicit banner and the blocking of the stairwells in that area. Yeah, and it's becoming serial offenders, and I think there's definite concern at Celtic that they're racking up the punishment. It's not just in terms of money, because in the great span, I think it's €23,000, which is 23,000 euros is basically, if you're going on holiday, it's £23,000 now. Yeah. But anyway, well, I think they've got it down to about just over 20 grand. But you're right, 11 in 6 years, Hugh. That's a lot of punishment. And I think this is pushed to think. I mean, admittedly, this is not just the fans. There was the blocked stairwell as well. And some of the recent ones haven't been fan ones, like Griffiths wasn't. That wasn't, and the 5 bookings, nothing to do with fans. But I think Celtic are going to try and control what they can control, and have to be pretty sort of stringent in what happens inside Celtic Park. Okay, we'll talk about their friendly game a little later on in the programme. I've got to go right to the heart of the matter from last night, Ruffy. Great result for Aberdeen. There was a shaky moment when I thought, oh no, not again, another away goal and real pressure on. But 2 great goals. Christie's header, superb, and Shinnie to hit it from there, albeit against 10 men. Just great to see Aberdeen getting the win. And look at the scenes in the background, Ruffy. That place was practically sold out. Yeah, I think that's why, excuse me, we hope that Aberdeen can get a decent run in this tournament. I think the fans deserve it. I think the players are getting a wee bit more European wise, and the support and the players themselves. And by all accounts, the first 30-40 minutes of that game, they were fantastic. Really went for the jugular. And it's a good result, because this team have been in the final stages of Europe twice in the last 4 years, so they've got a pedigree. So let's hope that they can go away and get something out of that game. Yeah, here's the Aberdeen boss, Derek McInnes' take on where they stand after the first leg.
Well, on Limassol, they're a good team. They showed that at different spells in the game. It's unrealistic to think we're going to have 90 minutes of total dominance, regardless of how much we want that. But I thought we got the balance right between attacking and defending spot on. I thought we were brave in possession, we were bright with our work, we were diligent against the ball and honest, and the winning goal from Shinnie is we're going to lead on to deserve to win the game. We deserve to win the game, but it's only half time and we've got work to do to get through it, but we're confident we can go over there and get the desired result.
He's got options. I'm sure he'll try and add a couple of more players of quality to his side before they get to the end of the transfer window. But he has options, and he's got players, again, with a trick that could maybe do something over there.
I think so. I mean, I think he'll be buoyed by the fact that his team came on strong in Bosnia as well, scored 2 goals over there. I mean, I've been looking at the Aberdeen selections recently, and if you look at that team, there's definite quality in it. I mean, Ryan Christie, to me, is top notch. I think he's going to get better. I think Ruffy, I know Ruffy's of the same opinion. We've always thought he was a real top notcher. I think Gary Mackay-Stephen will do very well for him, give them pace and give them a trick. I think the interesting one to me, I think Greg Stewart is a top notch player. I think Shinnie and the ones that have Logan, you know, the ones that have remained are more than decent. An interesting one to me is Nicky Maynard, because at one time Nicky Maynard was the real hot property in English Championship, and they thought a lot of Premier League clubs were in for him. You know, could he kick on now? For a variety of reasons, he hasn't kicked on, but that doesn't mean he can't kick on.
Yeah.
It just means there's been a wee kind of sort of like soft, you know, patch in his career, but he can go on.
But of course, Ruffy, he's also got the likes of Stockley, who can change the way he goes. He can go more direct. He's kind of a hustle and bustles centre forward. Tansy's still to come in and make a contribution. The one area I would like to see him maybe look at, he might have somebody in reserve that we don't know, but I'd like somebody with a bit more strength, height, physical power in the back line.
Well, they lost the big boy, who I think when there was anything going wrong at Aberdeen, he was the focal point of it. But I think now you're right, you know, when they come into the big games, the big time games, that's when they were letting themselves down, you know, and they were chasing Celtic, they would go in and lose silly goals. So you're right, I think Derek will be actively working on that as well. Well, let's not, you mentioned Rooney as well. They've still got Rooney up front to come back. So I think they're looking strong. Hugh's right, the boy Stewart will have gained a lot of experience for being down south. And I think they're looking good. And I agree, you know, they lost obviously the boy Jack, but I think they've got a better player coming in to take his place.
And I think it's interesting as well, their transfer business isn't done. You know, I was talking to their chairman last week. Wouldn't comment, obviously, as they don't, on specific names, but there was enough in that conversation to suggest that, you know, Derek McInnes can, you know, will be pushing for another one. And the name on everybody's lips, of course, is Louis Moult. And I think that is just a matter of meeting, you know, Motherwell's valuation or coming to a deal somewhere in between. But I think as well, Moult goes, maybe if Moult comes, I would think Stockley might go as well. So there's a lot going on there still. I mean, what we've got to remember, because we're in the middle of League Cups and European matches, the season's not really officially, you know, the domestic league season's not started. And of course, the transfer window's got a whole month to run.
And I don't know if you picked up on that, but I love Ruffy when he couldn't remember Ash Taylor's name. And of course, they lost the big boy, you know. That's a nightmare for what he achieves at Aberdeen, isn't it?
Yeah, but the thing is, if they go for Louis Moult, you've got to watch having too many strikers. That'd be 4.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to talk about that later.
The season hasn't even started. You're going to get yourself in trouble. And of course, I must just refer to this before we go to the break. Your Stuart Milton interview, Phil Marsty, it caused a fair stir when he said, let's move along now, there's nothing to see.
Yeah, I mean, and he was very strong on it. He was also very strong on where Scottish football should go. He's very strong on the fact that, you know, there's not enough investment coming in. I think that'll be a veiled sort of criticism of people at the top of the SPFL, and I think he's really keen now to get Scottish football moving in the right direction.
Just briefly then, can you see Aberdeen go through over the 2 legs?
Yes, I can.
Ruffy?
Yeah, I think they will, yeah. I think the biggest thing they've got to deal with is the weather.
And I think they'll score, which is, I think Aberdeen have got a capacity score, which is a big thing.
Yeah, okay. And as you can tell there, Ruffy's talking about the heat over there, because when it's really hot, sometimes Scottish players just can't perform, which is why we get cuffed by Brazil 4-1 in 1982. It was really hot, and Ruffy wasn't happy about that. We're going to have a quick break. We've got a question which has actually 3 parts to test your knowledge on a player. We're looking for his name. Have a look at the quiz question, coming in 3 parts, and we'll give you the answer before the end of the programme. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. Hugh MacDonald is with us. It's Friday. He's here alongside Alan Ruff and myself, Peter Martin. The great thing about the quiz this week, Ruffy, you're absolutely right. There are so many people who've written down about 50, 60 names of ex-Hearts players.
But nobody has written down Ian Cathro's name yet.
No, but let's deal with. Now I know why Friday I always find problematic, because you two could get me in trouble. But one man who's trying to steer himself away from trouble is indeed the aforementioned Ian Cathro. Jim McInally in the papers had a right go at him for not shaking hands at the end of the game. Felt he was a wee bit disrespectful, not paying enough respect to Peterhead for their 2-1 win over Hearts in the League Cup. But the Hearts boss is having none of it.
In relation to the shaking hands, come the end of the game, I walked up to what is the tunnel. At that point, I looked across, didn't actually go and greet Jim. They were still celebrating, probably a little bit too much. I lingered for a split second, and then I had to go and deal with the aftermath of the game with the team. I know, following on from that when I had media duties, that my staff went to see him, congratulated them on their performance, and naturally wished them well for their game this weekend, knowing that they have done very well to reach a point where they're able to compete, to progress in the competition. So I have no hard feeling or bad reaction to any of those comments.
Okay, it's a great tale. It's a great back page headline. Yeah. Fantastic, love it. And I love the fact it's great to create a wee bit of a noise up and try and drag it out for another couple of days, but much ado about nothing.
Aye, I mean, it's just one of these things. It's just in the mayhem of after match. You can imagine Jim would be, fairly excited about the whole result, the way it was achieved at the last end. You can bet your bottom dollar that Ian Cathro, and I don't blame him for this, he's not going to be lingering at the tunnel for, he says there, a split second. I bet you it was. I mean, but I'm not. Why not? I mean, you're not going to just stand and watch everybody celebrating. You're going to get up. So I think that the bigger story. The bigger story is the fact that, if you're a Peterhead supporter, you'll be saying, well, after a hugely disappointing season last season, where you were expecting an awful lot more, you're now favourites to win your league. You've been very strong. Rory McAllister, your eternal talisman's come back and scored again. That's the story on one side. And the story on the other side, which is huge, is Cathro and Hearts. That's a huge story that is, as they say, is developing. And we can all be accused of being guilty of exaggeration, but...
Well, can I just say something here? I was just about to say on that point, we are guilty at times of exaggeration. Are we guilty at this moment of acceleration?
I don't know. I think you would normally, because the season is only in its embryonic stages. I mean, we're not even out of the Betfred Cup, yes. But if you're a Hearts supporter and you're looking from Christmas to now, you're not. If you're looking at it as when Ian Cathro came in to now, which is a substantial period of time. He's had one transfer window, which was a disaster. He's now in the midst of a second one. Without putting sirens up and red flags up, you'll be looking pretty sceptically or cynically at what's going on at the moment. He really needs to start the season well, I feel. He really does. Well,
they've got a match coming up against Dunfermline in the Betfred Cup. Of course, every match brings its own pressure. The pressure's on in every game, according to the Hearts boss.
I feel the pressure, like all of us, to go to Saturday's game, to be ready for the game and to win the game. But that's something that we feel ourselves for every single game that we play. Not overly affected by one or the other, because we focus on the game that's ahead of us, the opponent that we play, how we prepare, and to be ready to win the game. So that is something which is the same every single time, and no different dependent on anything. It's the same for us.
Okay, looks fairly relaxed about it. And Budge, and again, Craig Levein in the background. Well, and Budge primarily is backing him with the money. I mean, Kyle Lafferty won't come cheap.
No, and I don't think Berra would either. You know, they had two good signings on paper. It remains to see if they come up with the rest of the team. But I think every game like that one there, you know, puts added pressure on him. And I've already touched on, unfortunately for him, the new stadium's going to put pressure on him as well, because he's going to play the first 4 or 5 games away from home. You know, so there's no guarantee that they're going to pick up points there either. So every game that comes around away from home, then it's added pressure. Rightly so. If you win them, it's fantastic and everybody will get behind it. But I think in the light of what happened at the end of the season, he hasn't, as Hugh said, he hasn't gave himself much of a breathing space. And the only way you change that is by winning games.
And the thing as well is everybody, you know, will go on about, or, you know, there's this great polarisation about, you know, Cathro, or you don't like him because of this, because he's a sort of modern laptop manager, or you like him for that same reason. My views, I'm completely neutral on him. I just think there's a right old-fashioned thing that has to happen. He's got to win games. That's the sign of any manager. It doesn't matter if you've got to wear a flat top or a beret or a Mexican sombrero. What you've got to do is you've got to win games, and he's not been doing that. One of the indicators as well is if you're a news editor, a sports news editor on a Sunday, and you're drawing up your plans for Saturday, you're going to be sending one of your big hitters to the Dunfermline match.
Yeah.
You're going to say, that's a big match, even not out of July. You'll be looking at that and say, this could be interesting, because Dunfermline under Alan Johnson are playing well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a big test for him. And across the city, I think that brings its own pressures on the opposite manager as well. Hibs have had a good start to the season.
Yeah, so far fine with Hibs. I like their signings. I've always rated Neil Lennon as a manager. I've always think he's been underrated as a manager because of that. Particularly, he went to Bolton, which wasn't a great choice. It was a basket case club. But if you look at what he did with Celtic, I thought he was very innovative. He got good results in Europe. He managed the squad well. He was a great motivator. And remember, everybody says he had to get Hibs up last season. Well, he did, but he did get them up. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, they were favourites to come up. They should have come up. But he achieved that, and that was a huge thing for the club. I like the look of his signings as well.
Yeah, and with that in mind, I think a number of people are just worried that you get 2 Lithuanians coming in and maybe it blocks the door for some of the homegrown players. But Neil Lennon was quick to point out there are more than a few people that will fill that role at Hibernian.
We're still looking at bringing homegrown players in. You know, we've got 3 in the squad now. You know, Murray, Poaches and Ollie Shaw. So we've got 3 through from our academy now, you know, in the first team squad. So that's something that we're always looking to do. Ideally, you always want to bring in British type players with the mentality, because they know the Scottish culture and the environment very well. But it's not always the case, so it's not as if we're going around scouting all around Europe to bring players in. We've brought in 2 that were affordable and had the quality that we were looking for.
Yeah, one of them who's up front, who likes to fight. The other one will bolster the midfield as well. I think, you know, of the 2 sides in Edinburgh, I think Hibs, for me, certainly fill me with more optimism about what they could do this season.
Yeah, I think Hugh's already touched on it. I think there has been good signings, but I think that the Lithuanian boys, I was impressed with them when they played Scotland. You know, the national sides come on leap and bounds. I think they're very good individual players. I think it's the same kind of brand of football they play in Lithuania as we do here. So I think they'll fit in easy. But it's good that this academy boy is going to get a chance as well.
Yeah, and of course I did mention the forum again to this match against Alloa. The manager fairly happy with the way the High Bees are playing.
You know, and sometimes they're not easy. You know, you've seen some of the other results over the course of the 2 or 3 games that, particularly at this stage of the season, it can be sticky. But like I've said, you know, in the last week or so, condition of the players is very good. They've come back with a, real good attitude, and they're performing. It's not easy scoring 6 goals against any opposition. They played very well against Montrose, and I thought they were superb at Ross County and deserved to win the game. So it's given me a lot of encouragement, although it is very early days, and I do not like pre-season.
Yeah, because in effect, I think a lot of people are saying these Betfred League Cup matches are being viewed as pre-season. For some managers who need to get wins under their belt, it's a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these betwixt and betweens. Well, they know that the players are not, right up to speed at the moment. And the season Neil will be hoping that the season goes to May. Neil Lennon was saying, almost like, I hope this season goes for another 10, 11 months. Because you want to be in the Scottish Cup final. Yeah. You want to be at the hard end of the league. So it's a long sort of road and journey in front of them. But they've got to be right at the moment, because this thing about football, momentum can build up. The pressure can build up. The team, if you talk to any professional footballer, they'll talk about how the way the season starts. Sometimes, you'll know this, Ruffy, you think you've got a great pre-season, you get a couple of bad results, and suddenly, boom.
Yeah, absolutely. Momentum, that seems to be the key. OK, are we any closer to finding out the Hearts player that we are talking about? Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's football show. Alan Ruff and Hugh MacDonald are with me here in the studio. Of all the games at the weekend, Sunday, Tayside derby. Again, cracking match to look forward to. The whole city buzzing.
Yep, and interesting questions as always about both teams. Neil, Dundee are really doing well at the moment. Neil McCann's come in and decided that this is what he's going to be his future career, and this is what he wants to do instead of broadcasting. Over the other side of the street, interesting signings, I believe, there. Scott MacDonald just joining up with them as well. They'll be favourites to win the championship now. I think they've got a more than decent squad to do that. Yep, so everyone's set up for a real great game on Sunday.
Yeah, when you go to see certain derbies, Ruffy, they all have their own appeal for differing reasons. But if you know a lot of people in Dundee, we mentioned earlier on this week, there's no way you could merge the two sides because families are split, some of them down the middle on this.
Yeah, and when you get to Dundee, the big debate is who is the number one. Who's winning the history and who's winning this, and the bad thing about it is we haven't had it for a while, and we've talked about it. We want the Glasgow derby, we want the Edinburgh derby, we want the Dundee derby, and now we're back to where we want to be. And it was interesting that Ray McKinnon went on record to say, I don't care about not winning the competition. I just need to win this game. He needs to win this game. The players need to win the game. The supporters want to win the game. And as Hugh said, if you've got a momentum of winning a game like this, sometimes it makes your season a wee bit easier. Yeah,
and the Dundee manager knows more than most what it takes to just excel in a derby.
Derbies are special, whether it be the Dundee one I've played in, and one I've played in the Edinburgh one, and one I've played in the Glasgow one, and one. So I know what it means to the club, know what it means to the fans, but actually it's just as important to the players when they get the win. They know everything that comes with it. So we couldn't be in a better place in terms of our mindset, in terms of our confidence, momentum. So we're really looking forward to the match.
He's the one person in Scotland that I don't think in any way will be intimidated by this match. Calm head, good player in his day, and a good reputation at Dundee when he was there, at Hearts, and at Rangers. And of course, he's the ultimate man to play in a derby with the biggest powder keg that's ever been in the last, 25 years?
And scored, and had Hugh Dallas gently tugging as he went to celebrate behind the goals. Hugh Dallas gently tugging him back on the park, said, "Remember, you've been booked already, Neil." And coming. Yeah, I mean, he's... you know, he's a tough character. He's played at the top level, succeeded at the top level. I was surprised when he turned down the Dundee job, you know, when it looked as if he was going to stay in broadcasting, because I thought he's a real football man, and you only get one, sometimes you only get one chance at this. And when he came back and said, "Yeah, I'll take it," I'm saying, well, seize the day, you know. I think the Dundee job's a good job. I think it's a big club. The argument between them and Dundee United will go on ad infinitum, but I think it's a big club, certainly a top 6 club in Scotland.
Yeah, and he is one of the most focused boys that I know in the game. He's got a steely confidence in his own ability. What he now has to do is to try and develop that and prove that he made the right decision.
Yeah, but I think obviously when he went in there, you know, they were down and out. I think we all had them getting relegated. He went in there and the fans will appreciate what he done in that short time. So yeah, he's got something to build on, but he's got the fans behind him now, so he needs to win, as Ray McKinnon has to win. This is the kind of game that would just establish him for the beginning of the season and get everybody on board.
Yeah, and of course for United, the be-all and end-all is just get back out of that division.
Yeah, because what you've got is you've got a Premiership club in the wrong division as far as the whole logistics and practicalities of the club are set up to be in the top division, so they've got to get back quickly. And they'll be, you know, you can see them. I think the Scott MacDonald move was a really significant one, because I think he's still a Premiership, even the age he is. I think he's still a Premiership class player, and that he can score goals in the top division. So he should be able to score, you know, more than a few in the Championship.
Yep, there's a number of games spread across, the majority of them on the Saturday, the Dundee Derby on the Sunday. Here's the fixtures for the groups in the Betfred Cup. Brecon against Falkirk, Forfar take on Inverness, Cally Thistle. So many people now following Inverness because of their Twitter site, which seems to like other sites as well. Ruffy, it's such a great story. I won't bother dwelling on it. Elgin against Peterhead. There's Hearts against Dunfermline. In Group C, you've got Wraith Rovers against Cowdenbeath. There's the Dundee United, the Derby in the City on the Sunday. Group D is Alloa against Hibernian, Arbroath against Ross County. And in Group E, Annan take on Ayr United, Kilmarnock Dumbarton, Morton against Edinburgh City, and Motherwell against Berwick Rangers in Group F. And in Group G, Hamilton Stenhousemuir, Queen of the South against Albion Rovers. And there's Group H, Partick Thistle at home to Stranraer, and St Mirren take on Airdrie. And one of those matches, actually, there's a new player in for Kilmarnock. I mentioned it to you yesterday that Leeds United had released him. He had options, Lee Irwin, to go to clubs in England. But I think sometimes if you've got an affiliation with someone, you know, and he clearly, you know, Lee McCulloch knew him from his days at Motherwell and thought he could do a job for us. Yeah,
and I thought he did a job for Motherwell. I was really impressed with him anytime we got a chance to see him. I think Motherwell were really surprised when he went away. He was a big loss to them. So I think that's quite a coup for Kilmarnock getting him in there.
I think it's an excellent signing, and I'm very interested in what Lee McCullough's doing there. Kilmarnock with a quiet success story of last season. Round about the ground, we're talking about early exaggeration and acceleration of criticism. Lee Clark was really under the cosh, you know, early last season, and he left Kilmarnock in a good position, and Lee McCullough solidified that position. So yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens with Kilmarnock this year.
Yeah, okay, coming up in the next part of the programme, we'll look at Rangers and Celtic and the friendly matches they've got this weekend. We'll hear from Brendan Rodgers on his striking problem as well. Just before we hit the break, I thought it would be pertinent to talk about last night's agonising knockout of Scotland's women in the European Championships, Ruffy. They had to win the game by 2 clear goals. In the end, it just 1 goal for Scotland in their victory over Spain. They deserve tremendous credit for that. But in the end, Anna Signal bows out, couldn't get them to the next stage.
Yeah, all credit to them. You know, they went to the tournament minus 3 or 4 of their top players. They went in there knowing exactly what they had to do. It's always difficult when it comes to the last game, you know, when you know the pressure's on you to get what you need to get, and they fell short. But they'll take encouragement from winning the game. and possibly they'll get the experience from that tournament when the next one comes round.
Yeah. Should we be too critical of them, or is this a learning curve to better things to come, as the goalkeeper Gemma Fay mentioned after the game?
I think a bit of both. I think, this is top level sport, so criticism comes with that, and the manner of the defeat against England was very poor. And I thought, but to be positive, they came back from that, and to come back from that and to beat Spain is an excellent result, because Spain are more than decent. But yeah, there'll be things on both sides of the ledger, Peter. I mean, this isn't just like a rah-rah thing, well done, pat in the back. There'll be things there said, things went wrong. And again, I think the big miss is Jenny Beattie was a huge miss, and so was Kim Little. And but they'll be about for future tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of the girls who play, and some of the girls who used to play for Glasgow City and Scotland. We were in their company for the Eddie Valecki Black tribute game, and they want to be taken seriously. And with that, I think the one thing that maybe mirrors the men's game is, I watched the game last night. The Spanish girls, technically, Ruffy, just seem to have a wee bit more. We got a goal, which is great. If you get up and at them, as they say, but I think they'll realise there's a wee bit more to the game.
But as Eddie said when he was on, the benefit that the Scottish players are getting now, they're moving abroad. They're going to pick up these techniques. They're moving to other teams, higher calibre teams. They're mixing with better players. So when they come back into the Scottish team, they'll be better. And I think that's where we'll get the benefit.
And Little's as good as you're going to see.
Yeah.
I mean, she was, for the punter watching the game, she's been a loss to the tournament, not just to Scotland. I mean, I once watched her at Fir Park one night, in a cold night, and she was just outstanding, technique, movement, quick feet. So she was a huge miss.
Yeah, absolutely. OK, so well done to the girls for the result. Let's hope it's bigger and better times ahead, not only for the women's game at international level, but for the men's game too. After the break, we are going to look at some of the ins and outs at clubs, not only in Scotland, England, Europe, and we'll discuss the friendlies involving Rangers and Celtic. Incidentally, if you can't get the name of this Hearts player after this clue, you don't know anything about the game. I don't want to annoy some of the younger generation who will hear that name from their dads, granddads around Tynecastle and undoubtedly down around the White Hart Lane area. But when you talk about players who could have played in any era, Dave Mackay's one of them.
Yeah, and a guy who slightly has been misrepresented by history.
Yeah.
Most specifically, the photograph of him grabbing Billy Bremner by the throat. But I would just say that I interviewed the great Jimmy Greaves once, and Greaves said to me that the most important player in the Tottenham team that won the double was undoubtedly Dave Mackay, and he was technically the best player in the team. And people forget that. People just say he's a hard tackler up and down the park. He says, but his actual technical ability made him the best player in the team. So that's a wonderful compliment from somebody like Jimmy Greaves.
Yeah, I actually was lucky enough to be in his company on, a good 4 or 5 occasions, Ruffy. One of them was actually at the Scottish Football Hall of Fame, when he was inducted into it, and had a great chat with him there with his wife. And over and above that, I was through in Edinburgh to, a tribute dinner for John Cumming. Do you remember that name?
Oh, very much so, yeah.
And Dave Mackay was quick to remind me, he said, that particular photograph you're talking about, he says, he'd just come back from a broken leg. He says, and Billy was at, or up to his usual antics, and he says, and the tackle was at a point where he thought, that could have broken my leg again. And he just gave Billy the message by holding on to his shirt and, just relaying to him what would happen if he tried that one more time.
Yeah, I only ever met him a couple of times, but...
Never sent off, Ruffy?
No, when you meet him, everybody talks about a captain. What is a captain? And even when you meet him, he's got that aura about him of being, if you can imagine, playing against him, you can imagine what he would have been, in the dressing room and on the park. And he was a lovely man as well.
Yeah.
You in any Hall of Fames? No, don't
eventually, I think he in before me.
Did he?
Yeah.
I had to wait another 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't rub it in. Don't rub it in.
Who's on the panel?
Exactly.
Oh,
We're still taking down the names of the panel members. Okay, before I forget, and it would be remiss of me not to mention, well done to the Scotland under-16s, because that was a great result against England. The boys have been flying, and I mean, everybody's raving about Karamoko Dembele from the game earlier in the week when I think they trounced them 7-0.
Qatar, yeah.
Qatar, yeah, but against England, I think good result for the boys.
Astonishingly good result, because I actually had a wee kick at that. I didn't see all of that game yesterday, but I was up at Anfield and saw a bit of it. And the England team, even physically, you know, there was a difference. And Dembele, against some of the English players, he didn't have a great game, Karamoko Dembele. He was in and out in fits and starts, which he's allowed to be. But he looked so small compared to... And then you remember, he's years younger. And at that age, Peter, we all played school football. It's, you know, the difference in age is huge. But that's a great result for Scotland. Two good goals as well. One of them was a goalkeeping that was unfortunate. It came off the bar and hit the goalkeeper. But the other, the one that sealed it was a good, well-worked goal.
Yeah, it just shows you by looking at the photograph how difficult it is with the physical, you know, a lot of small lads there against some lads that are bigger, so it's good that the smaller lads are getting a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the benefit of anyone who's not from Scotland, a wee kick at it means he had a wee look at the game, just in case you don't like Billy Connolly videos from the past. I've got to translate. We're going to put subtitles below Hugh MacDonald so it's understood in the programme. And staying with the Scotland team on a negative note, we've been fined, the SFA has been fined £4,000 by FIFA for the Scotland fans. There's a sneaky smile coming across my face here, because for the Scotland fans booing the England national anthem, it's just treachery.
Yeah, and it's also the thing about it, if you get a half decent QC, you could go, what is the English national anthem? England doesn't have a national anthem.
Yeah, well, with all due respect,
it just doesn't.
With all due respect, with all due respect, Hugh, that wasn't where I thought you were going to take us on that line. That's another programme. I think I should. What I'll do is I'll bring Bernard Ponsonby in here and John Mackay. We'll have another programme, okay?
Because it's a British national anthem, but I don't think it's an English national anthem. I mean, I know, but anyway, just another. I think Scottish.
Give me that shovel, will you? Just so you can dig yourself out.
Your car's not parked beside mine inside, is it?
But England.
I mean, honestly, what kind of week have you had, by the way? You've been up there with Stuart Milne, you've opened the Hornet's Nest, and now you're into the England national anthem.
But I'm just interested, like, see when they do in Commonwealth Games and all, they always come up and play Jerusalem and things like that. They don't play God Save the Queen. But anyway, it's another thing. It's another direct debit to UEFA from the Bank of Scotland that's going out. I mean, that's Rangers, Celtic, and the SFA all got to pay money. And the season's not really started yet.
Absolutely. I'm just so thankful we're not looking ahead to the Croatia-Serbia game with you, or we could be in real trouble. Anyway, that's that issue dealt with. Let's look at some of the friendlies over the weekend. Rangers are heading 7,000 Rangers fans off to Sheffield Wednesday. There's more than a few Scottish players down there. It won't be a friendly. It'll be a good ding-dong and a good test for Pedro Caixinha's boys again.
Well, he needs it. I mean, he'll be hoping it's a really competitive game, because that's what they've been geared towards. The elimination by Progress Niederkorn has been of such a catastrophe that it's blown a hole in the middle of the pre-season where qualifying games should have been. So there has to be a quick rechange and re-gearing of what games we're going to play. This will be a good test. Sheffield Wednesday played really well last season. I think they were unlucky. They're one of the teams that could, I'm not saying they were unlucky not to come up to the EPL, but they're one of the teams that could have come up to the EPL. They're that good. Yeah. Top-end championship, made a couple of good signings, good manager in Carvalho. Obviously, that Portuguese correction working. I think that'll be a really competitive game. Yeah,
and if anything, again, it'll give, after the Watford game, which the manager was more than happy with the way Rangers played, it'll give, I think, a strong contingent of Rangers fans a sense of, OK, we're now looking at your team, Pedro.
Yeah, and as you said there, he needs wins. Obviously some supporters will still be remembering that European game. So the more wins you get, takes their mind off of it. There's bigger games coming up. and obviously the league starting. And like everybody else, I say you want to go into your first game in the league on a winning run. You don't want to go in with doubters in the crowd.
Okay, another friendly taking place over the weekend is at the Stadium of Light. It's Sunderland against Celtic. Before we hear from the manager, Brendan Rodgers, well done to the Celtic FC Foundation and the club itself. They're donating £10,000 to the Bradley Lowry Foundation, which is a brilliant gesture, and I'm sure much appreciated by the family as well. As far as the game is concerned, I'm not too sure too many of the big players will be playing because they've got Trondheim and Rosenborg on their mind for next week, Ruffy.
Yeah, they certainly have, and he'll have to watch who he picks and selected for that one. I don't think the result will be important. It'll be how fit everybody is, obviously, in light of the striker carry on. They will want to take something out of the game, but I think next week is the bigger of the two.
Yeah, absolutely. And with regards to who he's going to play, it looks as if Lee Griffiths is far more positive about possibly playing in that match. There are more than a few of us asking the question about why Celtic haven't had any sort of cover in the striking department with the two strikers out. Here's what Brendan Rodgers had to say about the possibility of a third striker.
Yeah, it's the dynamic of the squad. With all due respect to Scottish football, you can't have three top strikers up here. That's, you're not playing in the Premier League down south or really a real competitive league where it is equally as tough but in a different way. But you cannot bring in another top striker to come in because the dynamics wouldn't work within the group.
Okay, he didn't hold back there. I admire his honesty on it. Do you think he has got the right thought on this one?
I personally think that, okay, you can have two top strikers, but I think there's always got to be a contingency plan, because this is not like everybody's went down with the bubonic plague or, it's like there's some kind of virus transmitted through the entire world. This is basically just two strikers getting injured, which is not impossible to envisage.
Yeah.
And already last season that presented itself and it caused problems. But I think there should have been contingency plan C. That'd be my view.
Okay then, thanks to Hugh MacDonald for joining us here. I'll leave you with the thoughts of one story that caught my eye. Neymar had a bus stop with one of his teammates in the Barcelona training out in America. It's the perfect time to have a bus stop, Ruffy. It gets you a £199 million move to Paris Saint-Germain. It's just a thought I leave you with. I know that if Ruffy had a chance to move to a bigger company, he would probably belt me on the jaw. Make no bones about it. So, with that thought in mind, look at Ruffy smiling at the thought of it. Hold on.
Down.
Good night.
Steady, Ruffy.